let's get into the D-line, man. And guys, please jump out at me if I get through this and I didn't mention someone, right? I try to have the official roster on me, and if I forget someone, it's not because I don't think they can play or they haven't been mentioned to me. It's just lot of things in motion. D and I were actually talking before the show. Should we split this up into like DNs and D tackles? Because obviously they can be looked at as different positions, but I think there's so much versatility amongst this group. A lot of guys who play end who are going to be playing inside as well, and just as a whole, an important group for Miami this year, led by Jason Taylor, Damian Lewis. Jason Taylor, I think last year was really, really the first year that you could say the room was his in a sense. Joe Salavea's role had kind of, I would say, diminished a bit, and I think JT kind of took control of that room for the most part last year. And then you add now Damian Lewis to that group, who all reports coming over from Colorado. And there's not like a player that you could say right now, hey, Damian Lewis turned this guy into this, right? But as a whole, the job he did at Colorado for a group that was going into the season from the outside, a lot of people question that defensive line crew for Colorado. He got a lot out of that crew for what they had. And the reports from people inside the building are he's really coaching that group up, the defensive tackles. And you look at, we'll start there just because I've gone down this path now. But you have, I think right now, a pretty solidified top three of Justin Scott, David Blay, and Ahmad Moten. We'll get into all these guys individually, but really it's a group that each of them have their own story. And I'm not just talking about Justin Scott, Blay, Moten, but even the guys behind them, where no one's a solidified player, so to speak. And you can say this about a lot of positions across the board on this Miami team. But Justin Scott coming in as a 5-star true freshman last year, we saw flashes, but didn't play a whole lot. So he's got a lot to prove to himself. And I'm not saying to prove like, oh, we're waiting on him and he's got to prove it. He was a 5-star. It's just like, if this team is going to be as good as it can be, he has to do something that we haven't seen yet. Damian Lewis, I think, has helped take him to that next level. With Scott in particular, it was a physical transformation we saw, but we talk about it time and time again with Scott. He was a basketball player coming out. He was really a guy who had that mentality, that mindset, right? So it was you got to eat right, you got to do everything in the weight room. We got D in here, and go ahead.
How he sounded?
Oh my gosh, way better. We got you.
I think I figured out the problem. All right, let me get outside here, get a better view. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great, man. We were just starting to get into Justin Scott, so I was getting a little excited. My heart rate started racing a little bit, and I was getting into the whole traits and the step that he's taken. So I was doing great. But I'm even better now that you're here to talk about it with me. I kind of started jumping into D tackles before anything, but I think now that you're on, let's take a step back and maybe before we get into like players as a individual and what we expect. This is a group that I think we talked so much about defensive back last year and their struggles, and I know a lot of it was scheme driven with up front and the stunts, but this group needs to be better than they were last year. I think Ruben Bain's injury, of course, played into that. The young guys were not physically ready. You're looking at Armando Blunt, a Justin Scott that I was just talking about. But at the end of the day, they need to play to these blue chip titles that they had coming out of high school. We've referenced the article that David Lake did in the offseason where Miami has acquired a lot of big-time players at this position or this defensive line, I should say, not just D tackle or DN. So to me, a lot riding on this group D, but we saw some very good things from the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. So quick question from Josh Gross asking, when do I come back? I'm back tomorrow. I'll be on the show tomorrow morning. I'll be back in Miami tomorrow night, and we got media day on Wednesday, so that's going to be a whole production, a lot going on there. I'm going to miss Colorado here, caught some rainbow trout this morning with my sons. God's country, man, it's beautiful out here, but we'll be back in Miami tomorrow, and then back. Pete and I are going to be doing, how many interviews we got tomorrow on Wednesday, man? It's going to be a whole thing.
A lot, man. A lot. Let's not give any more info out because I'm not sure what's out there and what's not.
Okay.
Let's yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, but
Yeah.
we'll have pretty much anyone we want. So a lot of stuff coming, a lot of content coming. I don't know if it's the connection, but we're getting a little. It doesn't sound like it did, but we're getting you a little in and out now. So just
okay.
a warning.
Well, listen, I'll get as much as I can in. Are you all right? So I'll get as much as I can in before it flips out. Basically, look, I agree with you, Pete. This is all about those 5-star defensive linemen playing to their potential. Defensive line is a blue chip position. Yes, you get an Aaron Donald now and then. You get some good players, but really, the 5 stars are what makes the difference between the Georgia, Alabama, all these years, Ohio State. These teams that you see in the playoff year in, year out, they have blue chip defensive linemen that go into the first, second, third round of the draft, fourth round of the draft every single year. Their rotation guys go 7th, 7th round. So that's really what it's supposed to look like. You got to recruit it. We have recruits that are on that level. So I think if you look at Ruben Bain, who is 4-star recruit, but he's clearly a 5-star player. He's one of the top players in the country according to everybody. Messidor and Moten, those are 2 guys that we've had them for a while. Messidor out of the portal 3 years ago, Moten out of high school. But if those guys were to jump in the portal, they would be demanding a lot of attention, right? David Blay was a top portal recruit, high 4-star portal recruit, top, I think it was a 3rd-ranked defensive tackle available. Then you go to the high school guys, and now we're talking about Justin Scott, who you mentioned, 5-star. Mondo Blunt, 5-star. Hayden Lowe, 5-star. Marquise Lightfoot, 5-star. And they're backed up by guys that were 4-stars. Malik Bryan, who I think is more of a starter than a backup type, but he'll play a lot. But, Booker Pickett, right, guys like that. So this is a star-studded group on paper. The production last year was not there for a lot of reasons, their own fault. We have a new defensive tackle coach, new defensive coordinator. There's a lot of stunting. You're going to see a lot less stunting, a lot more simple formations. Line up, beat the man in front of you. So I think that's really the position that needs the most internal improvement, both from a scheme standpoint and those 5 stars just becoming killers.
You're sounding good right now, D. So hopefully it stays like this. But yeah, it's a lot of youth, and we talk about with this position. Stephen Aveo, appreciate your support as always. As we get to this question here real quick, D, does Lightfoot have the size to play a lot this year or a year away? I'll take this question first. He's going to play a lot this year. From what I expect, it's just and there's one commenter who really hates when I say this, but we can't expect him. Like, when we watch him, he is going to be a pass rusher. We can only expect him to do so much against the run because that's what his body type is. So I expect him to be very successful in certain situations. But again, when we have this image of what a defensive end is, I don't know that he is not going to be someone that you think of in terms of the size to play with power at that position, right? So is he a year, like you might have to take him off the field in certain situations if you ask me. If you play a team that is consistently trying to beat you down with the run game. But is he going to have a role this year? A big role? Yes. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I agree, Pete. He is a physical player for his size. He's got more power than you think for his size. Played kickoff last year. He's aggressive. So he plays bigger than his size, but size is, it is what it is. He's not going to be that guy that just is a anchor in the run game necessarily. But I think you will use him a lot, and you'll use him to make an impact, which is tackles behind the line of scrimmage, sacks, right? Pressures. I mean, that's what you pay him for. That's what he will be paid for in the NFL. So that's not unusual. It's not like Lightfoot's that unusual of a guy. There's a lot of guys like this around the country. Everybody knew what his size was when they gave him 5 stars and all the different offers. So it's more about just putting him in a position to do what he does best, get after the passer. But I think one thing with Lightfoot is he's light, right? But he's not a finesse player. He likes contact. He's tough. He's physical. He's mean. That's why he played kickoff last year.
Yeah. And look, he had a phenomenal spring. So I don't know. There's something. Sounds like there's something behind you right now. So I'm gonna put you out. There you go. I was gonna say I'm gonna have you on mute while you're not talking. So um, D, we talk about this D tackle group, and again, you mentioned as I was getting into Justin Scott, just to give you my thoughts on the group a little bit. What I was getting at was it's a group that there's still a lot to prove for every single one of them. So you look at Justin Scott, really needs to have that year that if he's going to be a starter, he needs to have that step up, and we expect that to happen. But a David Blake coming from Louisiana Tech to now be able to put himself in a position where he's a legitimate top 100, top 3-4 round draft pick, right? That is a huge opportunity for him. And Ahmad Moden, who's been here for a few years now, and we always talk about the inconsistencies with him, but at that position, he's got a lot that he can do to help himself as an NFL sort of prospect with that size and athleticism that we normally just don't see at that spot.
First step, right? That's a big thing with Moten, is that his ability to get in the backfield. I think he is someone who's been a developmental guy. You always knew he had the talent. He played a little bit as a true freshman, but every year he's gotten better and better. So you're hoping that now he's a grown man. He's got a son. He's older. He's very athletic, great personality. I could see him as a breakout candidate. It's going to be a lot about how the system sort of clicks with different players. Different players react differently to scheme changes than others. Some like just they maybe you don't count on. They're like just they thrive in a new scheme. So I think the big hope for this defensive line and this defensive scheme is you think back to Manny Diaz's first year as a defensive coordinator back in 2016. Al Golden had recruited a lot of really, really good players on the defensive line. Blue chip guys, the right body types, guys you had to beat the SEC for. They didn't play that way under D'Onofrio in that scheme. But the second you switched to Manny's scheme, the talent looked a lot different. It was the same players, but the talent looked a lot different. So I could see that maybe this is the best case scenario because Manny jumped from whatever he was to top 10 in the country in defense. I think went from like 80 something to the top 10 in most categories. But it was similar with the talent you had on defense not matching the production and then the scheme playing a role in that. So that's Ahmad Moden's brother was on that team, right? AJ Moden. So I could see some similarities between that group and this group.
Now, just looking at the edge group real quick here, again, try to squeeze in as much knowledge as we can from you, just in case something unforeseen happens. And then we'll kind of circle back and get into more detail as we can. But there's so much being made about Ruben Bain, which we'll talk about him in depth here in a second. But Mesidor, to me, Akeem Mesidor is such a forgotten man from the group because he's been here for so long, had 7 sacks 3 years ago, has that foot injury that really hampers him a couple years ago. And then I think finishes the year pretty strong last year, has like 5.5 sacks. But I think he finally got that feeling back in a sense. And he comes back now with, look, a former legitimate draft prospect, like mid-round type of prospect, and needs to earn that back. But it's not like he didn't lose that talent overnight. So especially with defensive linemen, if you're going to have someone who sticks around, if he's 100% healthy, which looks like he is, he could have another 6 to 8 sack season without a doubt, maybe more.
Yeah, no, I think you have veterans on this team. You hear me, Pete?
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah. So you have veterans on this team. I mean, Bain, Mesidor, these guys have been around the block. They know how to use their hands. They know how to practice. They're physically strong. Out there, David Blaine, that mix too. Even though he's coming from a lower level, he's been in college for a long time. Now he's moving up from Louisiana Tech to Miami as one of the highest recruited defensive tackles. Had a great game against Arkansas. So I think all those guys, those are your veterans. Those guys have to produce. Ruben Bain has to be a first-round type pick. Mesidor has to be one of the better defensive linemen in the ACC. Blay has to be a starting caliber defensive tackle in the ACC, in the playoffs, really. So there's different layers of sort of experience on this team. And I put those guys in a different category, put Moden in that group as well, as the 4 upperclassmen, true upperclassmen. Malik Bryant you can put in that group too. that now is the time, right? Now is the time to have their best year, to put all together, to use everything they've learned, use their weight room strength to produce. And then behind that layer, you have the 5-star young guys, right? So if you can get both of those guys going at the same time, both of those groups going at the same time, you're going to have a legitimate, deep defensive line group.
Jake Campbell asking what the buzz is on David Blay coming out of the summer. Haven't heard his name much. This is a guy who he's not the biggest defensive tackle, but he fits what this scheme is. He's bigger than a Simeon Barrow was still. And I've gotten, I talked to a scout earlier this summer who told me this could be who said this could be a 3rd round pick, right? So not going to fit everyone's scheme at the next level. He's not a space eater, but athletically, quick first step. You saw a lot of his stuff against Arkansas in particular. I'm forgetting who the other team was that they played, but Arkansas, where the power and strength of these interior SEC offensive linemen wasn't too much for him. But yeah, I think this is a guy that we expect to start him and whether it's Justin Scott or Ahmad Moten, but I think he's pretty solidified as a starter.
Yeah, they're all starters, right? You know how it is with defensive linemen. They rotate. But I would say with Blay, I know you had the conversation with the scout. He's somebody that, talking to people and just to have observed him, he's not going to blow you away just with his first step and just overall twitches and explosives is good enough. But it's not like that's what blows you away. It's more that once he gets contact and starts battling, he just has unbelievable kind of body control and hands, and he finds his way into the backfield, to the quarterback. He just has a very good sense of his body to handle blocks, and that's a skill you don't talk about too much. Some people just have it, some people don't. You might have a guy that's extremely fast, but doesn't have the fluidity, right? The combination of moves. And I think Blay's one of those guys that he knows how to string it together, and he really impressed people in camp with what he does while he's engaged.
Canes 305 says, thanks to CanesInSight, I got $13 off my purchase at the Miami Hurricane team store.
Let's go, Pete. You're going to do that read today, so I'm counting on you to nail it.
I'll more about the Miami HTS later today. But D, I want to talk about a couple players here that I kind of put in the same bucket that I think we need to talk about at length here. Hayden Lowe and Armando Blunt, because even though they're not the same class, Blunt, as I keep hearing, just was not ready from a physical standpoint last year, right? You were excited about the way he was working. He would show flashes that he would beat guys in practice, but he really needed to get the weight on, and that year in the weight room, as he was not even 18 years old yet, right? So very important that year for him. But you have Hayden Lowe who comes in and is physically ready. It is his year, but he really impressed them from a weight room standpoint, from just the workouts. It's not just the weight room stuff. It's like the on-field workout stuff. But he came ready, and both of these guys are room elevators to me, because you feel very good about where the room's at in terms of you're bringing back a Ruben Bain that wasn't hurt, or was hurt last year, wasn't 100%, but even close to 100%, he's going to command double teams and triple teams, as we've seen. And then you like some of these other pieces, but Lowe and Blunt are just such an added. I mean, it's not an addition, because you need them to be. They're going to play a lot, but the versatility of a Blunt, the explosiveness of both of these guys, they look how they're supposed to look. That's the word around both of them.
5-star players for a reason. I guess I'm not sure of this. I'm thinking they're the same age because Blunt reclassified, right, coming in as a 17-year-old. So these are about generally the same age, even though Blunt's a year older in terms of the class. You mentioned physically ready. He was 17 last year. He also had an injury in spring, so he missed some time. Blunt did. I think held him back. So now both healthy. I think they're very similar for their 5-star players. They're both big defensive ends, right? So they're on they're big for defensive ends, but they still have explosive power and movement skills, and they could run. I think it was you that told me that Armando Blunt was running with the linebackers.
He's
And
outrunning
just running like a deer.
linebackers. Yeah, he was outrunning linebackers is what I heard.
So those are two highly athletic, big defensive ends, 5-star players, young. And then the two things where they're very similar is number one, high IQ. Like you talk to these guys. Armando Blunt, I think, had like a 3.7 or something, 3.8 his freshman year as a 17-year-old. So, Blunt's very high IQ, valedictorian of his class. And then Lowe, we sat down and interviewed him for after the spring game, and he talks like, a college grad. I mean, he's way beyond his years, and the IQ for both those guys, you might be soft, or at least that'd be the cliche, but they're both known for being extra physical. Like they probably the coaches to be more finesse. Like people, they want to be there, want to be dealing with contact. They have motors, they run down plays. They
All right, D, you're coming in and out. D, you're coming in and out right now. So let's see if maybe we chill for a second. Yeah. Well, listen. Let me see if we can get. Let me see if we can get, because there was a comment here that I think is an important topic. You look better right now, so we'll check back in a second here. But comment here and a question, not to cut off your train of thought there, but we kind of lost you midway through. But about DT number 4. It looks like D hopped off now. But question about DT number 4, Williams Bacon asking, will the combo of Dante Simpson and Artavius Jones at the 4th DT spot be enough to help make a playoff run? Good afternoon. Welcome back for the 3rd time. This is Peter Ariz with CanesInSight Daily, and hopefully we have no technical difficulties this time around. It's just going to be me now, so I don't think we'll have any issues. And let's try to get this stream back on track. Thank you, as always, to Anajar and Levine, law offices of Anajar and Levine, accident attorneys. Dial 1-800-747-FREE. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine, and hopefully I can take back control of the stream. So we were talking about the 4th defensive tackle at the University of Miami and whether or not that's going to be enough to with what Miami has to get them to the playoffs with what they have. So a few things on this question, because we've talked a lot. It looks like, based on what we know, the battle is going to be, or the competition for the more reps there kind of looks like it's going to be between Artavius Jones and freshman Dante Simpson. Jones, big recruit last year's recruiting class, or two recruiting classes ago, I should say. Didn't really see much time last year, and needed to take a step this spring. I'll say this before I get into each of these players individually. One, we keep calling it D tackle 4, but I think the fact of the matter is Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Armando Blunt will all see time at 3 tech in certain situations. So this is a depth thing, not only with what you have at D tackle, but the guys at D end, right? So who are the ones that I'm talking about? Like when you do slide an Armando Blunt inside, when you do slide a Ruben Bain inside, what's your depth looking like at defensive end? This leaves an opportunity for a Cole McConaughey, for example, who was banged up in spring, but people might forget this was a player who was taking pivotal snaps on 4th downs against Louisville last year in that game, right? So to me, it's not just a question of your depth at D tackle, but what does it look like at defensive end? So, like I said, you not only do you have your top 3 defensive tackles in, Justin Scott, David Blay, Ahmad Moten, but you also have a lot to look at when you have a Ruben Bain, who we expect to be playing some snaps in there in pass rushing situations. You have an Akeem Mesidor who's done that a ton during his career at Miami. You have Armando Blunt that at 270 plus pounds and that explosiveness, that could be his position down the line as he continues to grow into that frame of his. So yes, the the question, going back to the question, was, is that enough for Miami to get to the playoffs? Miami only has to do what they have to do in the ACC to get to the playoffs. So I think they've got enough at D tackle without a doubt to make the playoffs. Now the question becomes, you start facing some of these teams that you're going to face in the playoffs. It's a whole different question. We'll see what the answer to that one is down the line, right? So yeah, that's to me going to be more the question. It's not, do they have enough to get to the playoffs at that spot? I mean, they had enough last year to get there at D tackle. I don't think that we were missing a fourth D tackle. That, like, was it the most incredible production ever? You had a Simeon Barrow who was a first team all conference, but I think as we talked about at the start of part one here, the production needs to be better. But Miami did not miss the playoffs last year because they were missing a fourth D tackle, is what I'm getting at. There were other factors to that. So yes, going back to the original question here, believe they have enough to get to the playoff at D tackle right now. And to answer the question just kind of about each of these guys, Dante Simpson, Artavius Jones individually. Artavius Jones, I got to tell you the truth, like, the buzz wasn't great on him during the season last year in terms of, as it is the case with most of these freshmen, needing some time to mature and really take care of his business in the weight room. As we know, he's a weight room beast, but in the weight room, nutritionally, in practice, in the classroom, like, you've got to hit everything as a young guy to be an impact player as a freshman, or to get on the field even as a freshman. You've got to check all of these boxes. And Damian Lewis's impact on him this spring was a big one from what I understand, and that's kind of been the word around, is that he took a big leap in understanding that it's go time, man. Like in today's era of college football, you don't have 3-4 years to show that you belong at a school, right? You have one, two. Certain people are allowed because of what the potential is, and I think Artavius Jones, the guy, that potential is immense, but he needs to continue to handle his business. So, wow, we have a special guest today, my Uncle Dan, man. Appreciate you hopping on. He said he stopped by to check out the show. I got to tell you, this was probably the worst day for you to check out the show. I appreciate you checking it out, but we've had major technical difficulties today, which, as my uncle is a big timer in the production and videography business in the outdoors and fishing world. So I'm kind of embarrassed that he would hop on in such a lo-fi production today, but I'm gonna blame it on my partner. Appreciate you hopping on here, Uncle Dan. So guys, talking about, again, this fourth D tackle spot, and going back to Dante Simpson now. Artavius Jones just talked about him briefly there, but Dante Simpson came in as he was a 3-star recruit when he committed, flipped him from Maryland last fall. And remember, he wasn't someone that had a whole bunch of buzz before that flip, right? So I'm going to pull up some of these pictures of him recently, but someone that definitely passes the eye test at D tackle. We understand that as a freshman, you need to have that ability that I think half of them at D tackle need a year. But you see Dante Simpson here from the spring, right? So quicks, he has it. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's about 6'3 and a half, 6'4, comes from a big time program in Chaminade, and people who were at practice seeing that, at media portion of practice, we get limited stuff, but people who are at practice seeing these guys, especially the trenches, when you're up close, it sounds different, it looks different, it feels different. And to me, this is someone who we see some flashes this year, but a year from now, 2 years from now, we're looking at this as one of Miami's better evaluations under Mario Cristobal. The way we look at the OJ Frederic last year when he committed and he was a 3-star recruit and he had an early impact. You don't need Simpson to have that same sort of impact this year where he's starting week 1, against Florida the way Frederic was. But you need Simpson to be a guy who, whether it's injuries or just filling in those gaps, right? As there's a lot of rotation at this position. Those big guys, especially in some of the heat they're going to play in, we know that there's going to be rotation. And to me, he's someone who I'm very, very excited about. And I think he pushed Artavius Jones. I think it's going to be this is going to be one of the more exciting. Again, we keep calling it competition. They're all gonna get some snaps, but that's what it is. It's going to be, especially early in the year, because you have Notre Dame game 1, you have USF, so there's no easing guys into it. You're ready to go week 1. If you're not ready to go, then the next guy's going to get that opportunity. So I appreciate Jacoby. You drop that like button, smash that like button. We have D Money as I'm looking at my phone now. He said he texted me. Yes, and I was going to talk about this. I already had this video queued up. He wants me to talk about Mohamed Touré and the video that he posted yesterday. I think I referenced it early on the first part of the stream, D, when you weren't on yet. I had mentioned that he looked good in that video, and for some reason the tweet that you sent me is not popping up. So I had it queued up. Let me try to find it again. But the one that you sent me is not working right now. D says, sorry for messing up the stream earlier. I'm a tech idiot. It's all good. We'll get him back next week. But let me try to pull up this video so that once we're done talking D-line. And again, guys, get your D-line questions in here. You let me know who else I'm kind of missing right now. Cole McConaughey, I just mentioned him kind of as someone who, to me, was banged up during the spring, but D was hyping him up a lot last year. I heard a lot of great things about him. I saw him, I want to say May, June, walking around campus and talked to him for a second. He's got some good size on him. And he's not, we talk about the Lightfoots and the Booker Pickett's, and we understand what they're going to bring from a speed rushing perspective, but he's going to be someone who's physical at the point of attack and not really concerned with him against the run necessarily. So New King God asking for news about Booker Pickett, kind of in that, him and Marquise Lightfoot kind of in that similar bucket where they had really good springs and have done pretty much everything asked of them and should have nice roles in this Corey Heatherman defense. So nothing groundbreaking, earth-shattering about Booker Pickett, but yeah, he's someone who's on the radar and going to be getting a lot of snaps on this defense, man. Canes Cats Heat 305 says, besides Justin Scott, who needs to take that next step this season? He says, don't say Blunt. I'm not sure why he doesn't want me to say Blunt, but I'll go with Ruben Bain, man. I think with or without injury, last year, obviously, you look at the film and he was still commanding double teams, but his production needs to be at a high level for him to go do what he wants to do and be a high draft pick, right? And we see him in these first rounds of the mock drafts, and we all want that to be the case for him. But with his measurables and just talking to people, NFL people, right? We understand what his power is. We understand he's not going to be, though, the prototypical length at that spot. He's a bit of a tweener, you could say, at the next level. I talked to someone who says he has to be like a Kalijah Cansey, because that's what some teams are going to see him as, because he just doesn't have the prerequisites to play defensive end in some schemes. But some teams just won't care about that. Whatever it is, though, he needs to produce. When I say produce, sack numbers, right, aren't the only thing that come into play there. He's extremely strong against the run, but this has to show up on tape game in, game out. And yes, his impact is going to be definitely felt by commanding some more attention and opening things up for the guys around him. But to be a first round pick, he's got to put it on film every single game. And look, NFL people are aware that he was hurt last year and that hindered him. But the difference between being an NFL player and getting drafted and being a solidified first round pick for him, a lot's going to come down to this year. So we're excited about him, but yeah, man, I think that's who needs to take the next step, quite frankly. So that's my answer on that one. Josh Gross saying, should Blunt move inside to D tackle? I think right now he's an end. I think maybe he grows into an interior guy, a 3 tech. That's what I think some people, just looking at his body frame and understanding that he's 18 years old, that could be what he grows into. Because he's already put on a lot of good weight in 1 year. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know that the answer needs to be determined right now. I think that's the good thing about a talent like him, is that you don't need to necessarily decide that. You see where he kind of gives people issues, and you see what happens as his body continues to fill out, and you go from there. But Miami needs him. Miami needs him this year to be a big time player. There's no doubt about it, because he's going to be seeing a lot of snaps. So, bagging up saying, I don't see the burst from Bain. His future may be a D tackle. Look, I think last year the burst was definitely not there because of the injury, and for as much as he tried to work himself through it, I think it was probably nagging him more than we realized, and that affects you. But I will say the power he plays with is pretty obscene, man. And I know that's not everything, right? You need more in your bag, but I don't know how many college tackles can deal with that power down in, down out. So Micah Newton, New King God, asking about him. Herbert Scroggins, excited about them, but I don't know that they're there yet, ready to make an impact this season. I think we'll see some flashes from them, like we saw, during practices last year with a Lightfoot, with a Booker Pickett. But to me, and even with a Blunt, quite frankly, the way we're talking about him now, but he needed that year. And with these guys in particular, I'll get another close look at them hopefully now in the next few days, and see, like, with these freshman D linemen, you see a big jump in the summer, because they're really just worried about working out. They're not worried about the stuff in pads. But he should be someone that I think we should see a nice physical leap from here shortly. So